Welcome to this week's episode of the Aiming Five-Hole Podcast. Leafs are in, and I can see Ryan sweating. How you doing, Ryan? You're down to the final two games. You guys need to win.
They've had two opportunities to clinch a playoff spot. They look like utter dog poop in the first one. And last night against the Leafs, you and I were texting back and forth, possibly one of the most boring hockey
That was
games.
ugly. It was just, it put me to sleep, actually. You probably didn't realize I didn't respond to you
Did
during
you doze
overtime because
off?
I dozed off while they were waiting to face off for the
That whole game,
overtime. I had to
that
watch it
whole
and
that that whole game
rewind.
was perfectly summarized by the fight between Caden Gooley and Max Domi.
Was that a fight or a patsy?
where they sat there and they wrestled for the first 2 minutes, and then they threw two punches at the very last second and fell on the ice.
Yeah.
That's what happened in the game.
Yeah.
Nothing happened for 60 minutes. A chance at both ends, and the game was over.
Well, it was a better game than you expected because you expected at least we're going to blow them up, and I said
thought
that's
the
not
Leafs
going to
were going to blow
happen. It
them
was
out.
going to be a tight game. It was a tight game. It wasn't a clinching game for Toronto. Toronto clinched tonight, meaning clinching the division.
Yeah.
Although the websites don't suggest that yet, but they've got more wins than Tampa Bay. But you guys have to win. You've got the Hawks
We got the
on
Blackhawks,
Tuesday.
and then we have
We got the
Carolina to
Canes.
finish the season.
But the Carolina game, that'll be their last game as well. So they'll likely rest a lot of people. But you got to get it done against the Hawks because
Got to get
Columbus,
it done.
Columbus has got
Two
the
cupcakes.
Flyers, and they've got who did they say the other team was? They're playing the Flyers.
The Islanders.
The Islanders. They're going to win both those games. You guys got to win tomorrow against the Hawks.
Yeah.
You take
At
advantage of this at home.
At home.
You got to do this
In front of a
how-
home crowd.
But let's talk about it for 1 second. How good is it that the Islanders and the Rangers are out both on the same weekend?
I don't know.
How
I
good is
can't.
that?
It's hard for me to hate the Islanders.
Ah,
It's hard for me to hate the Rangers, to be honest with you. Like,
I hate the Rangers.
but
I never liked them.
and look, we've been saying it all summer, all season long. Drury's got to go.
Drew's
like-
got to go. Lavallierte's got to
Let's
go.
go. Like that team was an embarrassment. And
First to last.
those comments that you sent me from Calvin DeHaan, something's rotten in the state of Denmark over there. Like that team's got some serious locker room issues. They've got to blow it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My sympathies to my boy Bruce in New York, who's a huge Rangers fan. He told me he saved money on postseason tickets, so it's not such a bad thing. But oh man, it's got to hurt. But
But let's go back to the Habs for a second. Let's go back to the Habs for a second. Because
first of all, they have to win for two reasons.
you've also
one
got your
is-
Expos shirt on. So
I'm wearing an Expos.
you're trying to
t-shirt today.
channel everything Montreal right now. You're
Yeah.
trying to channel that positive energy because I know how bad you want it. I want it so that we can bet. I want my $100 back.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna. How am I gonna bet you if they don't meet in the playoffs?
Well,
Like,
you know.
I'm not betting on the Canadians to beat Washington. Are you insane?
Come on.
I mean, there could be, if we're talking odds here, and it better be pretty strong odds.
Okay, so how are you feeling
anyway.
tomorrow night against the Hawks? You're at home. You guys need to win this game.
Yeah, I think there's no way Nick Suzuki lets them lose that game. He's playing like a superstar right now. He outplayed Austin Matthews, although again, we're all convinced that Matthews is not 100%.
You can't.
Yeah, the Canadians got so badly outshot last night, but that was very misleading because all credit due to the Leafs. They blocked a ton of shots last night, and for their part, the Canadians thought they were playing soccer because they were shooting at a much bigger net than was actually on the ice. I've never seen so many missed shots and whiffed shots.
The boards and the glass behind the net got a workout.
They got the maintenance crew at Scotiabank Center was working hard this morning, pulling the dents out of the glass.
Shining the boards up for the playoffs.
Shining the boards up. Look, the Canadians played a playoff style game last night. It was very, very boring, unfortunately, but I think they're going to do the same thing against the Blackhawks. And if they do it against the Blackhawks, I suspect they'll have some better offensive opportunities, some better luck. hopefully some better aim. Um,
Yeah.
and there'll be a few goals in there.
Yeah, let's hope
Um,
they got to get to a better start because they've not
no, their
started
starts have been
games really
horrible.
well. They've
They've
been
been
terrible. So, like, I'm
they
pulling for you. I hope they get there. They should beat the Hawks tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think they're averaging 4 shots a period in the last few games, and they're averaging giving up like 67 shots in the first
Right.
period.
Right.
So it's they gotta clean that up in the first period.
Yeah.
You know, they also have to make the playoffs because if they don't, the Leafs will be the only original six team in the playoffs this
Is
year.
that like what do we say? This is the first time ever that the Rangers, Penguins, and the who was the other
Bruins.
team? And Bruins have all missed the playoffs in the same season. That's the first time this has ever happened. And to your point, then one original six team in the playoffs if the Habs don't make it, that's pretty big. And that's also one less Canadian team in the playoffs as well because I'm not confident. Well, St. Louis has sort of had some struggles. Minnesota Wild's having some struggles, but Calgary could still get there. But I'm not liking their chances either.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't put money on that one
yeah,
either.
so we've we're almost there to the playoffs now, so we can talk a little bit about playoffs, what we know, what we don't know.
Okay, let's start
Um,
with the East.
we know in the East that the Leafs have now got home ice advantage through the first couple of rounds of the playoffs. We know they're going to play Ottawa in the first round. That actually scares me a little bit. As we talked about earlier, we're 0-3 against Ottawa this year. We've looked bad against them in all three games. We need to come out playing hard and playing well, and we need to make sure that we get good goaltending. We need to get healthy. We've got some injuries issues going on with OEL now injured. McCabe has missed the last few games. Um, Pacioretty we haven't seen since the All-Star break. We've got Camp is out, who's a great defensive player for us. We got to get healthy. We got to get healthy. We got to get Nick Robertson out of the lineup and get some other people back in.
And you need your goaltending to keep up with Allmark, who's
You
playing
need,
very,
yeah,
very well right now.
and I think Stolhartz is going to have to do what he's going to do. I think I got to believe, given this week's performance, and Will played great today against the Canes, but I still lean towards they're going to start Stolhartz in the net.
Oh, he's been playing
Just
so
his
great.
body of work, yeah, this year and in the past, I think he's earned it. So we'll see. But great to see the Leafs. I'm nervous about them against Ottawa, but that's great. But how about Tampa Bay? Florida in the first round in the East. That's going to be a wild matchup.
Yep.
And the home ice is not settled there. It could be in
It
Miami, it
could go
could
either
be in
way.
Tampa Bay, it
Could
could
go
go
either way.
anywhere here at this point.
Will
Um,
Kachuk be back for the
Kachuk be
beginning of the
back.
playoffs?
We know Ekblad's going to miss the first two games. They've got a few other injury issues, so we'll see if they get healthy. But we'll see because Tampa Bay and it might be on Bob because Tampa Bay can score goals like very few teams in the league. So it could come down to a goaltender matchup there too. So it could come up against Bats Galaxy versus Bob, and that could be interesting. We also know that Carolina and New Jersey are going to play, and I think everybody in the East wanted to play New Jersey because New Jersey's kind of backing up into the playoffs
They
here.
are. They're struggling.
They're
Well,
struggling,
look, they've
so
just been decimated by injury. I mean,
yeah.
there's no
Yeah,
there's
they're
no
gonna
getting
have to.
around,
Yeah,
right?
they're gonna have to depend on their goaltending. And lo and behold, my old buddy coach could end up being out in the first round yet again. And how fitting would that be? But Carolina looks strong. It's gonna be interesting to see who they start. Are they gonna start this young kid who's had a great season, or are they gonna start Anderson? What do you think it's gonna
I
be?
think you got to. I don't know.
And they'll
Freddie
flip
is
back
such
and
a
forth.
Freddie has never gotten it done for them before.
No, no. So we'll see. We'll see there. So we know those matchups are happening. We're waiting to see if your Canadians get in. They're going to have to face Washington. Whoever gets that last spot, them or Columbus,
Yeah.
going to have
Well,
to
look, if the
face
Canadians
Washington.
get in, and they're gonna first of all tomorrow night against is it tomorrow or Tuesday? I think it's tomorrow.
Tuesday, Tuesday.
Tuesday. Tuesday night against the Blackhawks, they'll have Demidov in the lineup. And if they win the game, they've got an instant offensive infusion in this 19-year-old kid who could not be more excited than to play against Alex Ovechkin in the first round of the playoffs as a fellow Russian. I mean, he probably idolizes Ovechkin like any
Absolutely.
kid his age.
And Ovechkin got another goal tonight, so he's
Yeah,
one more
43.
43. So he needs one more to tie Gordie Howe for most goals as a 30 in a season by 39-year-old or older.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
by the way, once we're giving shout outs for goals that were scored today, very quietly, he's not quite there yet, but very, very quietly, without a lot of fanfare this season, in his second season, Adam Fantilli scored 2 goals today. He's up at 29. Like,
yep,
he could finish, he'll probably finish the season with 30 goals, which
yep.
is, what, for a second year player. Now, he's still a bit of an adventure in his own end, especially as a centerman. But let's face it, the guy's the real deal. I mean,
Yep.
they've got they got
He's
everything as advertised in
he's
him.
kind of lost a little bit in Columbus. We don't get to see him a lot because it's sort of in a non-traditional hockey market and not a
Yep.
lot of fanfare in Columbus. And obviously, they've had their troubles this year with the Goudreau story and whatnot. But it was great to see them push and get close to a playoff spot. Hopefully they fall a game short, point short here for you
Yep.
guys. But you know what? You got to give the hands to them because they could have folded up the tents this year from the beginning, and had a really down season. And anybody would have said wasn't going to be surprising. But they've actually made a major push towards the playoffs. They've actually outplayed, I think, a lot of people's expectations given how their season started.
Yeah. The
Previous
one
ones.
regret I have at the beginning of the season, I wonder where the Canadians would have been. Now I know that they were committed to this Kirby Doc pathway, even if it's not really an experiment anymore, it's a pathway. But if they had tried to re-sign Sean Monahan after they traded him at the deadline last year, how great would it have been to have him as a second line center with Newhook and Line A? Like they would have had 2 legit lines,
Yep.
and they might have been a little bit scarier in the playoffs than they're going to be.
Yeah, but look at you. You look at you're already talking about they're going to win tomorrow night. So that's
Oh,
good. I
you know
like the
what?
confidence.
I
And
got to
look,
think positively.
I know Washington's not playing for a whole lot right now. They've had this division locked up, and probably they didn't want the President's Trophy, but they're sliding backwards a little bit here since Ovechkin's goal record breaking moment. They've
Well, a lot of
slipped a
that
little
has to
bit
do with
here.
Logan Thompson, right?
Logan
He's cooled
Thompson's
off.
well, he's injured right now. He
Yeah, but
hasn't
he cooled
played,
off
so
before he
yeah,
was injured.
yeah. So
And
that's
Charlie
gonna be
Lindgren wasn't what he was last year.
right. So this can be interesting. So if you guys do get in, you get Washington, it'll be interesting to see how you do against that team and if that team can, rev it back up. And we talked about this in the season about those moments in time where you need to be pushing the right buttons and going
Yeah,
in the right direction. Yes, you need some rest going into the playoffs, but you also need to be playing good hockey. And right now, Washington is questionably they're not playing their best hockey. And Montreal, if they're in, or Columbus, whoever gets in, is going to be playing playoff style hockey for the last month, trying to push their way in. So
it's true.
that always spells danger for those higher end teams. So I'm actually happy, a little bit happy that the Leafs have been pushing the last few weeks, trying to continue to get better and better and trying to get push for the
You
division
just want the
lead.
Canadians to win so that we get a good bet going in a second round.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because it would be Montreal and Toronto in the second round
No, it
today.
wouldn't be. No,
Oh, it wouldn't.
Montreal, because they're in the second wild card race, would automatically slot into taking on whoever comes out of the Carolina, New Jersey series. Toronto, no matter what, will play the winner of Tampa Bay, Florida. And we can go right to my playoff rant if you'd like to, since you've lived it right
Let's
in there.
let's do that because you are so much more knowledgeable about the playoff formatting than I am, and so your disappointment with the formatting, especially as compared with the NBA, is ripe for a rant. And so,
Well, I
have at it,
just I
sir.
just think it's ridiculous that, and I understand why the NHL does this, and Gary Bettman has been the guy leading the charge on wanting to have divisional rivalries and divisional matchups. I get that. I understand that, but I think the time is right to move away from that. I think you need to start moving away from it. And I think it's unfair for the first or second place team to be forced to play the next best team that comes out of their division and not play a lesser team that fought to get in the playoffs. Now, I know the disparity in the NHL is very tight, and you're going to have to play everybody to get into the Stanley Cup final. You've got to go through everybody, but it's also about when you play those teams, right? Would you rather have Florida in their second round after playing Tampa Bay, or would you rather have them in the third round or third round after they've had to play a second round match and you're a little beat up. You might be a little bit more beat up, but you're still hopefully you're at a higher level than they are. You're not having to play that hard of a team. I think they need to go to the NBA style where you play in your division during the season and then you're ranked in the conference 1 to 8. And if that was to be, the matchups wouldn't be all that different. They'd be slightly different. Washington would still be playing Montreal. That'd still be the same. However, the Leafs would play New Jersey, and I'd rather play New Jersey than play Ottawa, to be honest with you. Tampa Bay would play Ottawa. That's still a divisional matchup. That's still good for television. You'd have and you'd have Carolina play the Panthers. That'd be a wild matchup. So like I
Did you
just
just hang on? Let me interrupt you for a second. Did you just say that Tampa Bay and Ottawa would be good for television?
yeah, it's still a good divisional matchup.
No
But that's
one's
what they're
watching that.
no, but I understand but it's still a divisional match. It's still a
Yeah,
divisional matchup. It's still two rivalry teams. And look at, by the way, it'd be kind of cool seeing one Kachuk play against the Lightning. I almost want to see Florida and Ottawa play each other at some point, but
Kachuk versus
just against each.
Kachuk.
But I think you need like if they're going to play in the divisional style format where you still get the wild card race. I still think they need to reseed in the second round. I think if you pulled 90% of the players or better, you get the same result out of them. They all believe that there should be a reseeding after the first round so that the top team plays the lowest possible team
I
left
think
in your
that's
division.
fair.
I think that's only fair. I don't think it's fair that you have to play potentially maybe the second or third best team in your conference because they're in your division. Like it's just wrong. Like Montreal, if they do pull off the upset over Washington, get to play either Carolina, New Jersey. Now that doesn't sound all that doesn't sound great, but it's still better than having to play Tampa Bay or Florida, given
Or Toronto.
the rankings or Toronto. Like so, I
Because if
just
you
think it's
reseeded, they
unfair.
would play Toronto.
They would
Assuming
play,
Toronto.
yes, they would play Toronto. So I think that's a little unfair, and I'd like to see the format change. That's my rant.
I agree with the reseeding after the first round. I do like the divisional matchups in the first round
That's fine. Then
because
reseed after that.
the reseed, because I miss the divisional, like four teams in each division make the playoffs and who comes out of the division.
Yeah.
Those old,
There should,
Wales conference
but there should be a
matchup, Morris
reward.
division.
There
First of
should
all, they should
be,
bring the division names back.
yes.
I thought they never should have gotten rid of them in the first place, even though I couldn't tell you who any of those people
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, but we're
But
Canadian and we grew up with those names. Nobody
I
in the US gives a crap what those
I
names
still don't know who
mean.
any of those people are. But at the same time, it was the Adams Division final. It was the
Norris
North
division.
Division
No, no,
final.
no one knows who those people were. We
The
do because we
Smythe
grew up with
Division.
them. But come on. But no, I think it's unfair. I think there should be a reward for success in the regular season because what you're seeing now is all this resting and all this load management of teams resting players and whatnot. I think that goes by the wayside. There's no way you wouldn't just be trying to overtake the team in your division. You'd be trying to overtake somebody in your conference in order to get a potentially better round matchup,
Maybe.
first round or second round matchup. You wouldn't be doing as much load management. Placing would be much more important than it is right now.
Yeah. All right.
So
Let's move out west.
move out west. So out west, a lot is being taken care of this week. Winnipeg has won the President's Trophy. They have won their division, and they've won the right to play St. Louis or Minnesota or Calgary in the first round. It'll likely be St. Louis, maybe Minnesota. It doesn't matter. All three of those teams are kind of sliding backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
But the President's Trophy winner, we've seen what happens before to the President's Trophy winner and how many
Yeah.
times they
It's
get knocked out of the first and second round. But you know what? How can you argue how good this team is playing? This week they played Dallas and beat them. I think it was 4-0 or 4-1. I think it was four
yeah.
one, and they
Yeah,
looked
and it was a
fantastic.
game that might have decided the
Yeah,
division, and they
absolutely.
spanked them.
They spanked them, and it looked good doing it. And you know what? If Buck stands on his head and plays as well good as his head, this team looked dangerous on 5-on-5, and they looked doubly as dangerous on the power play. They looked so good on the power play, moving the puck around.
Yeah.
Connor um, just looked so good at scoring goals and whatnot.
You can't take
So
penalties against them in the
no,
playoffs.
no.
They'll
So
make you pay for it.
yeah, and they're a tough team. They're hard to play. If Tanev's brother there, he's running
Yeah.
around hitting everything that moves. So, you know, I think they're going to be that's tough. They're going to win. So we know the first round matchup, Dallas versus the Avalanche. This one has so many great storylines in it. Mikko Rattinen's storyline, leaving, getting traded,
Yep.
and ending up in Dallas through,
Oh, it's
you
going to
know,
be crazy. Gabriel
crazy.
Landeskog,
Gabriel
welcome back.
Landeskog, welcome back after 3 years not playing hockey, gets his first goal in the A. Likely, if he shows improvement this week, they're going to put him in the lineup in the playoffs.
Oh, for sure.
And by the way, you getting your captain back after 3 years, what a boost that is to your psyche. Now, I still say this matchup is going seven, and it could come down to goaltending. You
Yeah.
know, Ardinger, I still say the two goalies in Colorado, I still think that's going to be their issue. You know, I still think that's going to be their problem. Uh,
Well, I mean, it's possible that Colorado just outscores them.
yeah,
That's
yeah, they're
Colorado's
going
going
to
to have
have
to win a
to.
lot of 4-3 games in order to win that series.
Yes, yes, but that's going to be a series that I will watch every game, every minute that I possibly can.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to be so much fun. But we know that matchup is locked up. We know Winnipeg is going to play the bottom seed.
And surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Although it's not technically over, we pretty much know now that Los Angeles and Edmonton are going to play for the fourth year in a row.
But
Um,
this time,
However, this time it's going to start in likely in LA. Edmonton could still catch them, but it's unlikely. And we've
and
seen
and,
LA's
and the
home,
Oilers are going to be without Matthias Ekholm.
and that is not good news. Their
That is,
best defensive defenseman out, likely for the foreseeable future. What terrible news that is for them. Got bad goaltending. They're going to be back on the back end now. What do you do to what do you? Does
they're
this
going to
make
have to win a lot of 5-4 games
this,
or six
Drysdale,
five games.
Drysdale and McDavid are going to have to score 10 goals a game. Like I just don't see them. I think this is could
It's
be
a
a
fatal
five
blow,
game, could
perhaps.
be a 5 game series and they're done. Stanley Cup champion, Stanley Cup finalist last year, gone.
Gone in
Uh,
5 games unceremoniously in the
yeah,
first round.
so it could be really, really ugly for
And if
Edmonton.
LA wins the first round, look out, man. They're they're not the deepest team, but they're a solid team. They play
Yeah,
unbelievably well at home.
they do.
Um,
They're going to have to learn how to score goals, though, because that's their biggest problem. They
yeah,
can't score goals. Now, they've had a good season. Their goaltending has been a lot stronger than we predicted it would be, but
yep,
can they do it in the playoffs? I think they're going to get lucky by getting Edmonton in the first round and Edmonton having the issues that Edmonton's having. So we'll see what happens there. But um, we're coming down to the last 2 games. There's going to be a lot of load management going on this week. These games aren't going to mean as much for some of the teams. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects some of the matchups and some of the positioning.
yep,
But
yep,
it's going to be a fun week, and I can't wait till the playoffs next week. So we should have done today too, and I was remiss. Maybe we'll do it next weekend. But some of our prognostications of what we said before the season would happen. We both agreed the Bruins wouldn't make the playoffs. They
yes,
didn't. Um, uh, no one predicted Washington doing what they did. We all both said they probably wouldn't make the playoffs.
yep.
Um, the Rangers not making the playoffs. We both called the Rangers to lose to Edmonton in the final. Rangers are gone, not even going to be seen for the foreseeable future. Um, and so
So yeah, I think
can
we
we
get
go
to
to
receive too.
our
Don't
mid-season predictions, which was whoever comes out of the Central Division in the West is going to win the Stanley Cup.
I, I think it's probably like the Central Division versus the field. That would be an interesting set of odds to see on
Yeah.
online.
I just don't see anybody in the West beating Winnipeg, Dallas, or Colorado. Whoever comes out of that division and comes out of the other side.
I don't think
Uh,
Vegas
uh,
can do it.
no, I don't think any of those three teams are strong enough. I don't think Vegas can score. I don't. Vegas isn't strong enough. Los Angeles can't score enough, and Edmonton's just bad on the back end. They'll get beat. Even if they
Yep.
are lucky enough to get past Los Angeles, there's no way to get past the Knights, and there's then no way to get past whoever comes out of the Central.
Well,
Uh,
if Toronto can play defense the way they did against Montreal, which by the way they did with 5D because McCabe and who was it?
OEL,
Yeah,
Oliver
OEL were
Ekman-Larsson were out,
hurt.
and we have cap issues.
and you have cap issues, if you can play like that defensively and get a modicum of secondary scoring from your third line, they've got a chance against any of those teams.
Yeah, look, I think the East is wide open. I
East
think
is
the
wide
East
open.
is wide open. I think, obviously you got to give kudos to Washington. Can they do this through the playoffs? Can they keep it up? We'll see. But you're right. I think that Toronto, if they can get past Ottawa and bear down and get past somebody that's given us a lot of trouble, then I think Tampa Bay and Florida are going to beat the crap out of each other and going to come into the second round of that playoff matchup a little bruised,
Mm-hmm.
a little battered, and Toronto's going to have to take advantage of that. And who knows if Kachuk comes back? He sounds like he's going to come back. How healthy is he? How
Yeah.
healthy is he?
If
So
Ottawa and Florida were to advance, would they meet in the conference final?
they would have to wait till the no, they would if Ottawa was to beat Toronto and Florida beats Tampa Bay, then yeah, they would play in the second round.
In the
That would be
second
the
round,
second round matchup.
Kachuk versus Kachuk.
Yes. That would be fun to see, but I don't want to have it at the expense
I don't
of
want to
my
have.
Toronto Blues.
I'd like to see them both out. I
I
like to
would
see them
have
both out in the
preferred,
first
yeah,
round. Thank you
yeah,
very much.
absolutely. Get rid of the Kachucks. We're all done with those guys and be done with it. But
Kachucks, Marchands, all of the above. Get rid of them.
yeah, the surprise team for me out of the East, if it's not Toronto or someone out of the East, is Carolina. I think Carolina can be strong if they get good goaltending. I think they've surprisingly played really well. I know the Leafs beat them tonight pretty handily, but
They have to
um,
show that they can do it in the playoffs. They've
yeah,
been a top team the last 3 years and haven't shown much.
yeah, but they're going to get a
Um,
pretty weak New Jersey team. I think they're going to get a pretty weak New Jersey team.
yeah, they'll come
So
out
they're
of the
going to get
first round.
they're going to come out of the first round and they'll be a little fresher. They'll probably play less games, although, if Washington can roll over Columbus or Montreal in five or six, then they'll come out pretty smooth as well. But that's no
Yeah.
guarantee either. So
Meanwhile, if Ottawa gets past Toronto, look out.
yes, Ottawa could be a dangerous team, could be dangerous throughout. But then you're right. Them against Florida in the second round could be pretty
Pretty
interesting
bruising.
if they get past Tampa Bay. So, which is
Yeah.
no guarantee there. That's going to be remember, was it how many seasons ago when Florida and Tampa Bay played against them that first round? They just absolutely creamed each other. Was the year after the COVID year or was the
I
year
think so.
before? Was it 19 or was it 22? I can't
I'm not
remember.
sure.
But they beat the snot out of each other. Absolutely beat the crap out of each other. It was a 7 game series that just was punch, counter punch, punch, counter punch.
It was one of those. It was
Punch.
one of those years when the Leafs were losing to
Yeah,
Boston. That was it.
yes, 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 yeah. It's one of those years. You could just pick one of those years. What it was,
pick one.
pick one of those years. But look, we hope Leafs get healthy. Hope they're going to get to rest some guys now. The next few games, we've got who do we have this week? We got 2 games left. Who we got this week? I knew this. Oh, why am
If you
I blanking
clinch,
on him?
I wouldn't dress Matthews the last 2 games.
Well, they're gonna Marner's 2 points away from
A
his
hundred.
100, right? So they're gonna try and
He,
get
but
him
he's
that.
not hurt. Go ahead and play him.
Yeah, gonna play
You got
him.
to sit
So we
Matthews.
got we got Buffalo on Tuesday, and we've got the Wings on Thursday. So there's gonna be some resting of somebody. Matthews will likely get rest. I bet you Tavares gets rest to give his aging body a little bit of rest. Tanev will likely get some time off, but we need some guys back there who can play, right? So we also don't want to go backwards either. You don't want them to get that foot too far off the pedal with a couple games to go here. So
Yeah.
you want them
Here's the
rolling
worst
right.
thing that could happen for the Leafs. Okay. Marner catches fire in the playoffs, surprises everybody, leads the team in scoring through the playoffs, gets them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. They lose, and then Marner signs somewhere else in July.
It could happen. It could absolutely happen. It
That
could
would be
happen.
worst case scenario for the
It could
Leafs.
hain. It could
Although,
definitely happen.
although losing
I
the
think
first round is probably worst case scenario for the
yes,
Leafs.
yes. But if that happens, and we talked about it, I think he goes, I think he has to go at that point. If we don't get out of the first round of the playoffs, major changes, and that's the
But
major
that's but
change.
that's what the team wants. Is
I
there a
think the fan
question
base
whether
is
or
going to
not Marner
land.
wants to come back anymore
No,
after the way he
absolutely.
was
I think if
treated at the deadline?
yeah, like, and I think that if they lose in the first round and he doesn't do well, I think the fans will just lay it on his head, and they'll be
Yeah.
like, "Well, you should have waived your no trade. We could have had Ratton and we would have won this thing." Right? So I think that'll be the sentiment. I think he'll have to go, but
Yep.
it's going to be fun. I'm away for next week. I'll be back in time for our episode, but we'll be into the first round of the playoffs by then. Hopefully your Habs are in. We'll be
Yeah.
talking next week while I'm
Hopefully I'll
away
be
in Europe. But
celebrating, not mourning.
yes, I'm going to go to Rory McIlroy's home country here in Northern Ireland, play a little golf.
Nice.
Maybe I'll see him there with his green jacket on since he won today. Congrats to Rory finally winning the Grand Slam.
Yeah. It was a
But
lovely moment.
we're gonna have a little down week this week in terms of quality of hockey, probably. But by next Saturday night, we'll be into the best time of the year, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, where there are going to be some fabulous matchups. We can't wait.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. All right,
Well, you have a
Phil.
great week, and I will see you next Sunday. And we'll be revving, and we'll be have our bet set for the Habs losing to Washington and the Leafs beating Ottawa.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Have a great week. We'll talk to you
You
soon.
too, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.